everyone. Welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is a USA Today best-selling and award-winning author whose extensive list of novels includes The Favorite Daughter, Best Day Ever, and most recently, Jill Is Not Happy. Her book, Beneath the Surface, was recently optioned for feature film. Thank you so much for being here today, Kaira Rouda.
Thanks, Chelsea. I'm happy to be here.
Me too. So I actually just finished Jill Is Not Happy a couple weeks ago, and it literally maybe took me only 4 days to get through. It was such a fun, quick read. And as an aspiring author, I was so inspired by you. So cannot wait to hear more about your story.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. And that's the best compliment when someone says that they zip through your book. I'm like, yay.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of books I write, at least.
Yeah. I kept being we'll get into it. But there were so many things where I was like, what the heck is happening? So I loved it. But to start, you've said that you knew in third grade that you wanted to be a writer. So what sparked that early passion for storytelling?
Yeah, so I'm a daughter of a school teacher and a professor. So we grew up in a household with lots of books all around. And so, some of my earliest pictures is me yanking books off a bookshelf that I'm not supposed to be doing. But by third grade, my dad was a professor at Harvard, and we were living outside of Boston. And
wow.
My teacher at the time in third grade, which I wish I knew her name because I could not figure it out. She asked us to write to the person who we wanted to become when we grew up. And my favorite author at the time was Robert McCloskey, Make Way for Ducklings and Blueberries for Sal. Anyway, so I wrote to him and he actually wrote me back. I mean, he's famous at this time already. And he's like, Dear Kaira, thank you for writing, but I'm an illustrator, not an author, so you should pick better next time. Oh no. So that was the beginning of my illustrious career in publishing, I will say.
Oh my God, how rude to say that to a third grader.
I know, but at least he wrote back because some people didn't to their person. Yeah. I kind of think of it more as a sign that it's going to be tough to get a book published. And when you do, you get to be crusty, I guess, on the other side.
Yeah, right.
But anyway.
Well, so you mentioned some of the authors that you liked reading, but do you notice any of their influence in your work today?
Well, I think I was an English major and I read a lot growing up too. So I would say I've been influenced by so many people along the way, just, from Nancy Drew to, I still remember being in English class, and I don't know what year this would have been, but reading Shirley Jackson's The Lottery and just going, holy cow. Yeah, it still just sticks with me that you could take a story that's seemingly so innocent and this little village, and then all of a sudden, holy moly, all heck's breaking loose. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that now. Oh my God, that does stay with me. It's the one where they're have the child, right? That's locked away.
Well, no, this one is where they kind of pick somebody that's the sacrifice, and they still yes, yeah. But anyway, so that just gave me the chills already just talking about it again. But the power of writing, and I particularly find myself drawn to women writers, that you can have something sinister kind of brewing right under the surface, but on the surface level, everything seems just fine. So that's always been kind of what I'm drawn to.
Oh, I love that. And I could totally feel that with Jill Is Not Happy. Well, you majored in English at Vanderbilt and went on to have a successful marketing career, winning several awards and eventually becoming a VP at a major firm. So what took the turn into marketing?
Yeah, it's funny because also in addition to wanting to be a novelist growing up, I also always wanted to be Darren Stevens on Bewitched, which is super bizarre because, Samantha had all the magical powers.
Yeah.
Darren was in advertising, so go figure. I also had a dad who was a marketing professor, so I think I always say I got my at-home MBA in marketing because of that. So I kind of had these dual things, and actually they're very complementary fields because in marketing you write a lot, and it's just kind of part of the job. So
yeah, that's so interesting. Well, after marketing, you founded Real Living, which is a pioneering real estate brand for women. So how did that entrepreneurial leap come together, and what challenges did you face building something so innovative?
Yeah, that was crazy time. So as you said, I was working for an Inc. 100 firm and franchisor as the first woman to have an office with a door, and everything was big time back then. And then I found out why shortly after, because they were just not, so I had to ended up filing a class action lawsuit for sexual harassment. and
Oh,
gender
I'm so sorry.
and against them. That's okay. But yeah, I am not allowed to talk about it really because
Oh.
back they still had those clauses that you had to sign, like the NDAs. But I won anyway. That after that, I was kind of at home, and I'd always been kind of working on novels on the side, but I liked working, in marketing as well. So my husband had done a roll up of 14 real estate companies in Ohio, and I had kind of started specializing in marketing to women. And so he asked me if I wanted to create a brand, which was super fun. So I got to create Real Living, and we were the first brand to recognize that women make or influence 93% of all home buying decisions. And that if in real estate, the real estate sales force is predominantly women too. And no one had marketed that way. It was always traditionally two men shaking hands in front of a yard sign. I'm like, no, our customer's her. And I would start saying things like, when she talks, and people are like, who's she? Who's her? Because they're all like so used to marketing to men when that's not
Yeah.
the customer. So we kind of changed the paradigm back in the early 2000s, and people started realizing that women are the one in control, and it was great. So
Yeah, God, that's so inspiring. Well, after that, you published your first book, Real You Incorporated, which came out of that business experience. So what was it like shifting from that to authorship? And did that book kind of ignite your return to creative writing?
yeah, it's funny. I never pictured writing a business book at all. I mean, my dad had a bunch of
Yeah.
business books out, and I'm like, no, to be a novelist. But when the opportunity came to write it, I got to feature a bunch of women entrepreneurs and also kind of share my story with Real Living. And so it was really fun to write, and it got like picked up by a publisher like in one day on the
Oh,
perspective, which never happens. So that was very crazy time and fun. But then I found out after writing and turning in said book that the key to nonfiction books is speaking. So you're supposed to go all around the country talking. And that had never been a dream of mine.
yeah.
Everything I know, I put in the book. Just go read Created and you'll find out what. So that resulted in me I had to hire a speech coach because I had never done that before. And long story short, ended up doing this like national tour, speaking to these women's conferences of thousands of people, which turned out to be great, but a lot of work for an introvert like me. So I
Oh,
did.
yeah.
That was, that's part of a nonfiction book. So if you want to write a memoir or something like that, you have to go out and speak about it. And then it did lead, in fact, to me writing my first novel or really getting serious about it. I was at the Austin Women's Convention back in whenever the book came out. And this woman in the audience, so my whole talk and my whole belief is it's never too late to live the life of your dreams, and you have to put your passion in action. And even if it's like a side hustle during your day job, just keep going, right? So this woman raises her hand and I'm like, yes. And she's like, so have you done it? Have you done all your dreams? I'm like, no, I went to get a novel published. And she's like, so I'm like, you're right. So I had to go home. I got really serious about it. And my first novel was a women's fiction book about a woman having a midlife crisis. And she uses a lot of the principles from Real You Incorporated to turn her life around. So it kind of ties.
Wow.
So it's called Here Home Hope, and it came out in 2011. So
Okay. So, well, for me personally, I am so type A. I was curious, like, did you have a book or some sort of layout or outline to help guide you through it? Or did you kind of just dive right in and start writing the story?
So what happened was because I had an agent for my nonfiction book, she had a co-agent who focused on fiction. So she kind of connected me with her, and we brainstormed kind of a segue. How can you go from a nonfiction women empowerment book into fiction and still be a little bit empowering? So we had kind of brainstorm ideas, but not a specific story. I'm more of a pantser, so I kind of like to let my characters run free. So after we got kind of a set, like an outline of an idea, then I went to work writing.
Wow. Okay. That honestly is so freeing to just know you can just dive in and do it. I always thought that you had to have some like kind of, I don't know, just some guide, but maybe that's just because that's how school always had you write stories.
Well, yeah. And I think that, right, because you're used to writing something that somebody else is telling you to write, but this is for you. So you have to just sit down and start doing it. And that's what I find the biggest hang up in people who want to write a book is they just need to start. So you just start. Yeah.
Yeah, God, that's such a good advice. Well, speaking of the publishing process, so how did you get through all of that, and what were some of the surprises that came along the way? Because I imagine that would be kind of challenging.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of being type A, I also am type A, and I was pretty much used to controlling things. In marketing and in running a business, you kind of make decisions, and then things happen. In publishing, you submit. And back then, before like anything was all digital portals and all that, it was all like you submitted in paper, and then it came back from New York and it said no, and then it was crazy. It was such a long, slow, horrible process. So now it's a lot faster to get rejections. They come in
Oh, yeah, yeah.
quicker, but back then it was slow. And finally I just said, you know what, there's got to be another way. Maybe I'll just self-publish, do something. So I found a company called Greenleaf Publishing Group, and they are, I think it's called hybrid. I'm not sure what they're actually called, but you pay to have them help you get your book out in the world. And they just did a great job. And I had an editor from New York that worked on it. And I love the book. I love the cover they did. And I was in airports, and it was really fun. I mean, it was a great experience. And so from then I decided, okay, maybe I could learn some more about the back end. So my next two novels I self-published because like I said, I'm kind of impatient and I didn't want to wait around. So, yep. So then I self-published, and that was great because you learn about algorithms and the marketing side of it and how you really have to, it's especially in digital commerce, you need to understand how all that works. And then by the time that my breakthrough book came along, it was called Best Day Ever. And I got, this big publisher, HarperCollins. And, so I think it all just kind of builds together. And any way you can get your words out there is the right way to do it, I think.
Yeah. So the con to self-publishing sounds like it's more work on you, but you get your book out there. And then the other, like having someone else publish it, it's going to take longer.
Yes.
But you don't have to do as much legwork. Is that right?
Sort of. And like publishing is all about distribution. So you want your book to be in as many places as possible, in bookstores and online and every place else. So what the big publishers have is that they have distribution. And so that makes it so nice because they're doing that part for you. So if you're self-publishing, it's pretty much you and putting your cars in your trunk and driving around, or digitally trying to move them that way. So
yeah. How did you deal with the rejection of getting the no's? Because I feel like that would be really hard to not feel discouraged.
It is. And because writing is so subjective, right?
Yeah.
And the creative art, but it's part of a big business if you want to make it. So I think it's about being resilient and again, making sure that you keep going no matter what, because like I said, from the beginning of me telling people what I think about things is that if you want your dreams to come true, the only way they're not going to is if you quit. That's kind of the way, right? So you just have to keep going. So if when a person says no, then you go this way and you kind of, you
keep on moving. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing that I think would keep me going is knowing that like the Harry Potter books got denied so many times.
Right. Many of that. I mean, there's so many stories I have so many rejection letters. I mean, there's just, it happens to everyone, but the difference is you keep going.
Yeah. Well, so for Best Day Ever, can you talk a bit about the film adaptation in progress? Like that sounds so exciting.
Yeah, and it's actually Beneath the Surface, which is the one that got optioned. So I still think Best Day Ever would make a great
Beneath the Surface. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So Beneath the Surface it's set in Orange County, and it's about this wealthy family named the Kingsleys. And Richard Kingsley, it's very successionist, invites his family to go on his new mega yacht for the weekend for a trip to Catalina Island. And he's going to try to decide which of his really rotten children he's going to leave the business to. So that's kind of the premise of the book. And it was out, I want to say, maybe 6 months or so. And I get this, I guess he had been trying to get me through Instagram, and I was really bad at responding to Instagram. So he eventually went to my book to film agent and found me there. And he's an up and coming director named Alonzo. And he said, I love this book and I want to make this movie. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. So it kind of started with him. And then he got a production house involved, and they have finished the script, and it's so good. It's so good.
Oh my God. It's like all coming together.
Yeah, so it's going together. So I don't know timelines or anything, and he keeps me up to date when he can, and it's been a great process. So knock wood that it
Yeah.
keeps going. Yeah.
How much of a say do you have in that? Because I know, as like a Twilight fan, when those movies came out, I was like, "What? This is so different than the books." Or
Right.
like even some of the Colleen Hoover movie that came out, I was like, "This is not how I pictured it." Like, how much say do you have in how it goes?
I don't think that much. No, I mean,
Okay.
I don't have that much experience because it's just, this one that got optioned. But I imagine like if you're Stephen King, you probably have more influence than somebody like me, with a book to film. But also, I kind of think the people in Hollywood are the experts about what people
True.
watch. So I'd rather them be excited about the story, and if they want to add or embellish or change things around, I think that's fun too.
Yeah, I loved Where the Crawdads Sing because I read the book and it's like one of my favorite books. And then the movie was like, I was like, okay, they changed a few things, but I still love it.
Still worked. Oh yeah, I love that book
Yeah.
too. In the movie, it's perfect.
Yeah, such a crier. Um, well, you said some of your stories are inspired by the world around you. So, can you share a bit about how Orange County and living in Laguna Beach has influenced your work? I felt a lot of this, and Jill is not happy.
Yeah, I like to write about grown-ups behaving badly, and especially grown-ups with a lot of money. And so when you look around Laguna Beach or any place in Orange County, you definitely see that. But also still we lived in Ohio forever, and in the suburbs, anywhere in the country, you'll find people trying to keep up with the Joneses and, putting up, it's not like you're trying to put up a false, image, but maybe everybody kind of falls into that to make it seem like a perfect marriage, for example. And really, we all know there's no such thing as a perfect marriage. It's an illusion. But, and now with social media, you can kind of create a whole filter on your life. And so it's kind of gotten even more so that the perfect family, the perfect marriage is the perfect illusion. And there are a lot of ways to make that appearance look that way. But in reality, it's never the case.
Yeah, I love that so much. And can you talk a bit about, because it felt like there were certain things that kind of were parallel that you pulled from your life into the book. So can you talk about maybe some of the hidden Easter eggs or like, I guess how you were influenced to write about that?
It's funny. Ever since I started writing marriage thrillers, which was really started with Best Day Ever, and then Somebody's Home Is, and Favorite Daughter, I'm just really drawn to this kind of genre. But yes, so my husband of a long time is like, oh no, another marriage thriller. Jack and Jill were inspired by our road trip to the Utah National Parks during the pandemic. And Harley's like, let's go on a trip. And I'm like, okay, because you're kind of stuck at home. And I'd never been to the Utah National Parks, and they're beautiful and breathtaking and awe-inspiring. And we get to Bryce Canyon and the sun's setting. And you look down on all these sandstone sculptures that they call hoodoos. And I'm like, oh, wow. And he looks at me and he's like, you want to kill somebody here, don't you? I mean, fictionally speaking, of course, but yeah, the study is amazing. So so that did inspire the road trip that Jack and Jill find themselves on, and some of the setting, like in the first part of the book, for sure. And yeah, and I guess my husband did do a stint in politics, and Jack is a former politician in the book, so that kind of is an Easter egg too. But yeah, there are some things in there. You're completely right.
I love it. I've been to Bryce Canyon and Zion National Park too. So I loved getting to like be able to actually picture it and Orange County. So that was really fun for me. And I totally know what you mean when you're like looking down into Bryce Canyon. It's like it's scary like view.
So scary. And then those sandstone sculptures, they just kind of come to life, and all of a sudden you can see faces on them. And yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, what does your typical day as an author look like? I don't know if there is such a thing as a typical day as an author, but and then how do you also balance your creativity with the business side of being an author? Because I guess I always pictured an author being really idyllic, like you're writing and like a really beautiful view, and you just send it off to your editor and you don't have to worry about it. But I'm assuming that's not how it goes.
That sounds lovely, Chelsea, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, right now I am like, I pinch myself every day because I get to write from an office where I can see the ocean, which is so fun. It was always a dream of mine. But I usually spend the mornings doing the business part of the job, which is the marketing or responding to emails and all of that kind of thing. And I'm about to go on a significant book tour, which I haven't done in a long time, which is really fun, but also a lot of work too. So I'm kind of planning all that and working on those details. And then if I had a perfect day, I would start writing probably around 1 in the afternoon and then write until dinner time or whenever my husband's like, all right, it's time to stop working. Let's go. Yeah, that would be a perfect day. And does that happen every day? No. And I've also learned that my muse is better if I don't push her. So if it's not a day that feels like writing, or if I've got other things on my mind, then it's okay to not write that day, and it'll still be there.
Yeah, I notice that when I'm writing for the magazine too. It's like sometimes I need to like take a step back and then I'll come back to it and it'll start flowing to me.
Yeah.
But how do you come up with how did character come to you, Jill? Because I was like, this woman is insane without giving away any spoilers. But how did that character come to your mind?
I don't know. That's what's kind of strange about it. She just she popped into my head, and then I usually have a title that pops into my head, a setting, and then a character. And so once I saw the Utah National Parks, I knew that would be one of my settings. And then Jill just kind of arrived. Yeah, which is to say, but it's true.
Do you do research for these? Because it seems like, I mean, there are certain aspects of it where I was like, I would never know that was a thing. Like, do you do research before you write the book or while you're writing it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I have a fascination with the narcissists around us and amongst us. So that usually one of them shows up in my my stories, kind of pop up, and some of the other cluster B personality disorders. I definitely have done research with all of that. Not that I'm a psychiatrist or a psychologist by any means, but I do find it interesting that some people would say up to 15% of the population have these tendencies, and so they were all around us, and they happen to be very prevalent in my novels.
Yeah, that's kind of a big percentage.
It really
is scary.
I think they say that more and more are being created every day because of social media. You can get so much attention quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
It is.
Well, I also noticed, so in Jill is Not Happy, she had a career as a magazine writer, or she freelance writes, and you actually were a columnist for 10 years. Yeah. So how did journalism writing influence your fiction writing style?
I mean, if I had to pivot, I love magazine writing. That was my favorite type of writing. So my first job right out of college was with a magazine in Dallas. And then I ended up it was just hot and I didn't have air conditioning. So I ended up moving back to Ohio. So my first job was with a business newspaper. So that really taught me deadlines and how to, turn over copy quickly and all of that stuff. But they also had a magazine component to the newspaper. And so the magazine editors started asking me if I wanted to write features for them. And I just fell in love with magazines. So I did that as well. And I always did a lot of freelance writing. So when we got married, I submitted to Brides Magazine and got that published, that kind of thing. So that was fun. But my column, interestingly enough, was a society column for Columbus, Ohio. And it was in all the newspapers, like the suburban newspapers. And I had so much fun. I mostly covered charity events and happy things, but I had a little scoop in there hidden. It was really fun. It was called Connections. Yeah.
Well, it also reminds me of kind of like this Jill is Not Happy with the country club and all that stuff, like that societal, and they have events. But was that country club the Newport Beach one?
No, should I say?
Maybe not.
I believe it might be Shady Canyon-ish.
Oh, okay. I've been there for a bridal shower. I was totally picturing the Fashion Island one though.
But I really couldn't want you to picture any of them.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. God, it's I love being able to read it and then knowing what street he was on, and I could totally picture it.
Yeah.
It was really inspiring. And okay, so I personally, I have a outline and that I want to write a book, also thriller. But I haven't looked at it in probably a year. And what I've come to realize is if I don't start, then I can't fail. But and then if I do start, it might look completely different than the image that I have in my head. So I guess, have you ever experienced that? And what advice would you have for someone like that?
Yeah. And I mean, I go back to seriously, you just got to write it because you never
Yeah.
know until you do it. And it might even turn out better than you imagined. You don't know.
Haven't thought of that. Haven't thought of that. I've only thought of it being worse.
Right. So let's look on the positive side and think
Yeah, yeah.
it might even be better. But seriously, you'll never know until you do it. So you just gotta,
Right. Yeah, you're so incredibly inspiring. I literally am probably going to look at it tonight for the first time in a year and give it another shot at it. So thank you so much for doing this. Is there anything that you want to shout out for 2025 in your career?
Gosh, well, I'm going on this big book tour, which is on my website. So if you know of anybody that lives in any of these places, please send them my way to the bookstores. I'm really excited for that tour, and I have another book coming out in February. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, which is exciting. That one is called "We Were Never Friends," and it's set in Palm Springs. So it's another California.
Oh,
yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great title, and it's about a group of sorority sisters who are forced to reunite against their will, pretty much because one of their daughters is marrying one of their sons, and they really hadn't seen each other all these years, and they're like, "Oh, now we have to get together again." So it's really fun.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, congratulations on your new book, and I definitely will be reading that one.
Thank you. Yay.
Well, we are coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So I've already asked this question, but if you have any other advice that you would like to share with inspiring authors that may be listening.
Yep. Just sit down and read that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's good advice because it's like, I just need to keep telling myself that.
Really. If you need a push, just email me and I'll say,
I love that. Yeah.
Read that book. Yeah.
Well, what habits or routines do you feel have helped you become successful?
Sitting down and writing that book.
Do you have any rituals like before you sit down? Like, I feel like I'd make myself tea or something.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm an iced tea drinker, so I'd like to have my iced tea up here. And I had my puppy, who was my sidekick for 14 years, passed away recently, but he used to sit on my desk because he was a little tiny guy. And that was, part of me being able to write. So I was kind of worried that he wouldn't, without him being here. And I still look over and like picture him there. So he's kind of with me in spirit now, I think. But yeah, so I'm kind of trying to find a new ritual to, but I think he'll always just be metaphorically sitting on my desk.
I currently have my 2 dogs sitting next to me. If you've noticed me going like this, like
you were up to. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I love dogs too, and they swing by and visit as well. And then I'll be doing that, but it's not the same as having a little guy on my desk. But
oh, it's so cute. Well, lastly, how do you define success now versus how you did when you were first starting out as an author?
I think. You know what it is? It's funny, but to me, the biggest thrill is going into a bookstore and seeing my book on the shelf. And and that feeling is the same whether it's book 1 or book 23, which Jill is not happy is book 23, which is crazy.
Wow.
So it really is that feeling that you look in the R's and you're like, oh my goodness, there I am. And so that's how I would define it in my head. Pretty simple.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I can't imagine. Have you ever seen someone pick up your book?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I just got the chills. There have been like one time in the bookstore when I was hunting for my book, and there was a woman who had it in her hand in that. And that was so fun because it was just, when I'm like too shy to go say anything to her, so I did it. And my other really fun one was I got on an airplane to go someplace. And, the flight attendant's like looking at me and I'm thinking, do I know her? And, anyway, I guess because she had the manifest, she'd seen my name and she was a big fan. And so she wrote me a little Post-it note and said, I love your books. And that was so fun.
Oh, I love that. Oh God, I can't even imagine. That's such an incredible feeling. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I am now officially inspired and ready to get my start on my own book, but I really appreciate your time.
Oh, it was great talking to you, Chelsea. Yeah, just sit down and write.